Well, hey, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about the word percent or percents. Just in the word percent, cent, like century, has to do with 100. There's 100 cents in a dollar. A century is 100 years. Cent has to do with 100. So percent means per 100. Per 100. For example, let's say you get 100% on a test. What that means is you got 100 right out of 100. 100 out of 100 is 100%. Let's say you score 80% on a test. What that means is out of 100 questions, you got 80 correct. 80 out of 100 is 80%. But not all tests are out of 100 questions, right? For example, you might have a 5-question quiz and you still will get a grade on it, a percentage grade. Let's say there's a 5-question quiz and you get 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Well, we know that 5 times 20 is 100. And to make it equivalent, 4 times 20 is 80. So 4 out of 5 is equivalent to 80 out of 100, which means 4 out of 5 is 80 out of 100. 80 out of 100 is 80%. If you took a 5-question test and got 4 right, you would get 4 out of 5, which is the same as 8 out of 100, 8 per 100, or 8%. 80% on the test. 80 out of 100, isn't that 80 hundredths? Hundredths, if you think of that place value with ones, tenths, hundredths, 80 out of 100 is 80%. It's also 0 and 80 hundredths. So a fraction can be written as a decimal and as a percentage. Let's say a basketball player takes 10 shots and makes 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. We know that's the same as 7/10, right? We also know that a percent is a fraction out of 100. 10 times 10 is 100. 7 times 10 is 70. So 7/10, which is the same as 7/10, is also 70/100ths, or 70%. 70% is the same as 70 hundredths, which is 0, and 70 hundredths, which, as we know, is equivalent to 7/10. You could add a 0 on the end. Fractions and decimals and percents are really kind of the same thing. Let's say a basketball player takes 4 shots and makes 3/4. You probably know 3/4 as a decimal is 75 hundredths. 4 times 25 equals 100. And 3 times 25 is 75. 3/4 is equivalent to 75 hundredths. 3/4 is equivalent to 75 hundredths. That's the same as 75 hundredths as a decimal. And if a basketball player takes 4 shots and makes 3 of them, 3 out of 4 is 75% of the shots. 3/4 is the fraction. 75 hundredths is the decimal. 75% is the percent. But they're all equivalent to 3 out of 4. Let's say at Alo's restaurant, they're saying 25% of all profits go to charity. That's a nice initiative. Why is my camera getting so blurry? It keeps getting blurry. I'm apologizing for that, guys. Jeez. So let's say 25% of, we know of means multiply, right? Of. And let's say on that night, my restaurant makes $600. 25% of means multiply. $600 will go to charity. I know that 25% is 25 out of 100. That's what a percent means, per 100. And 25 hundredths is the same as 25 hundredths. I made $600, 25% of $600. Of means multiply. I'm going to put my longer number, the one with more digits, on top I'm going to multiply by 25 hundredths. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 5 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. 600 times 5 is 300. Put a 0 under the ones place because that's really a tens digit. Notice I'm ignoring the decimals altogether right now. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. I'm going to add them all up. But before, I'm going to add them all up. Fine. Now, I made $600. I'm giving 25%, which is like 1/4, to charity. Could I be giving them $15,000? There's no way. Let's think, where should the decimal go that would make the most sense? 25% is less than half. 25, right? 50 hundredths is half. 25%, 25 hundredths is less than half. Half of 600 is 300. So the decimal couldn't be there. That'd be 1,500. That's way too much. I only made $600. I can't give away more than I made. That's 25% less than half. I think the decimal should go right there. $150 seems like 25% of $600. And I'm going to teach you a trick that I taught my group yesterday. Yesterday during the 3 o'clock Zoom and in yesterday's Ed Puzzle. You box any digit that's behind a decimal. That's 2 digits behind the decimal. So you want to make sure that there's 2 digits behind the decimal in the answer as well. $150 is the amount that I would give to charity. So then I would keep $450. We also know that 1/4 is the same as 25%. And if I have $600 and I broke it into fourths, 150, 300, 450, 600, it makes sense that 1/4 or 25% of $600 is $150. We could also multiply it like a fraction, 1/4 times 600. 600 is the same as 600 over 1. And when we multiply fractions, you can always multiply across. Remember, 1/4 is 25%. 1 times 600 is 600. 4 times 1 is 4. And 600 over 4, or 600 divided by 4, because fractions and division are the same thing. 600 over 4, 600 divided by 4 is 150. Same answer I got before. So 25%, or 1/4 of is multiplication. 25% of 600 is still 150. Let's try another one. Let's say you go to a restaurant and the bill comes to $40, and you want to give a 20% tip. First, 20%, that's less than half, right? 50% is half. 50% of 40 is $20. 20% is going to be less than half. So I'm going to be giving less than $20. If I had to estimate, maybe $10, I don't know, but less than 20. Let's find out exactly how much. 20% is the same as 20 out of 100. A percent is a fraction out of 100. 20 hundredths is the same as 20 hundredths. Of 20% of $40 is what I'm giving for my tip. So I'm going to say 20 hundredths times 40. They're equally long. I don't even need to worry about that 0. But I always want to make sure my longer number is on the top. So I could say they both have 2 digits if I didn't include that 0. Because see, I don't need that 0. Or I can include the 0. It doesn't matter. They both have 2 digits. It doesn't matter what order you put the numbers when you multiply. 0 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 0 in the ones place. 0 times 4 is 0. 2 times 4 is 8. Add them all up. We get $800. Am I giving an $800 tip? An $800 tip? No. Remember, I estimated that the tip would be less, because 20% is less than 50%. 50% is half. Half of $40 is $20. This has to be less than $20. Would it be $800? It would not. I would not give an $800 tip for a $40 bill. Would it be, the decimal go there, $80? That's double what dinner cost. No way. and 20% is less than half. Half of 40 is 20. 20% would have to be less than half. So maybe it would be $8. That makes the most sense that the decimal should go there. And let's find out. There are 2 digits that are behind a decimal. Here's my decimal. There's 2 digits behind it. So there have to be 2 digits behind the decimal. And the answer, I'm giving an $8 tip. So dinner was $40. I'm giving an $8 tip. So altogether, I have to pay $48. Okay, let's try one more now. Basketball player makes 60% of her shots. That's pretty good. And she took 40 shots. First, 60%, what is that as a decimal? We know it's 60 out of 100, and 60 out of 100 is the same as 60 out of 100, or 60 hundredths. It's also the same as 6 tenths. 60% of 40 shots. You took 40 shots, you made 60% of the shots. So we're going to multiply 60 hundredths, which is the same as 60%, times 40. Let's estimate first. 60% is a little bit more than 50%. 50% is half. Half of 40 is 20. So she made a little bit more than 20 shots. What would be a good estimate? Maybe 25? Let's multiply for real. Let's do the zero trick. What is 6 times 4? That's 24, right? Then we add the 2 zeros on the end. 2,400. If somebody took 40 shots and they made 60%, would they have made 2,400 of their shots? No, that doesn't make any sense. We said 60% was a little more than half. What's a little bit more than half of 40? Would it be 2,400? No. Would it be 240? No. Could it be 24? 24 is a little more than half of 40. Would it be 2 and 400 thousandths? A little bit more. 2 is way less than half of 40. That doesn't make sense. Well, let's check. There's 2 digits behind a decimal in the question. There have to be 2 digits behind the decimal in the answer. 24, that makes sense. 60% is a little bit more than half. A little bit more than half of 40. 24 makes sense. They would have made 24 shots. Okay? Hopefully this was helpful. Do your Edpuzzle. I'm sure you've been doing a great job, and then answer a couple questions on Canvas. There is no Zoom meeting today, unfortunately, but I will see you guys on Tuesday on Zoom. Do your very best and really work through all the things on Canvas. Okay, guys?